Welcome back to my Ask a Knitter series, where I answer common questions that I get asked during knitting classes from knitters, usually about garments. So that's why this series is right now about garments, possible modifications and things like that. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at garments that have been written for being made in pieces and how you can possibly convert those to seamless, because that's something I get quite a bit. So one of the questions I get asked fairly often is, I've got a garment or a pattern that's knit in pieces, but I'd much prefer to do it seamlessly. And how can I do that? So I thought I'd go through a couple of the things that you might want to think about, some of the places where it's easy to modify and it doesn't cause too many problems, and other ones that could be a little bit of a headache. So first one up is taking a look at stitch patterns and how they are written in the pattern and how comfortable you are with chart versus written directions. So if you have done a chart before or done a class with me where I talk about charts, you know that I love charts. And the reason, one huge reason I love charts is they're so modifiable and they give you as a knitter complete control. So if you've got a chart that is, we'll say it's written flat, okay? It was because you're assuming that we're starting, this is not written flat, but for a pattern that was knit flat, and the chart is going to show it in rows. So you'll have in the key, you'll have right side and wrong side directions. The right side ones are the ones where the number starts on the right and you read them from right to left and you use the right side directions. Wrong side are the ones where the numbers are listed on the left side and you read them from left to right and you use the wrong side directions from the key or from the legend. So that's pretty straightforward. If you're doing it back and forth, wrong side rows can be a little tricky because not everyone likes them when you're doing charts from the wrong side row. Very straightforward. Now, if you want to convert that to in the round, you're obviously not going to be going back and forth. What you're actually going to be doing instead is you'll knit around your work, and then you go all the way around and then you come back around again. So you are always looking at what I would call the public side of the work or the front of the work. And you're kind of in luck with charts because with the chart, you are actually looking at the public side of it. The front of it is the chart. So you're just going to, you can use the existing chart that you've got for worked flat. You just read it differently. So instead of going back and forth and using right and wrong side rows, you ignore the wrong side rows, you're only interested in the right side directions, and you assume that every row is a right side row, starting at the right side and working across like this. And every row is just going to be knit right to left with right side directions. So one of the reasons why I love charts is that it makes it an absolute doddle to convert a stitch pattern from flat in the round, because you already have all of the information. You're just reading the chart differently. I'm just pausing the video for a second to remind you to pop in and subscribe. It is one of the best ways of making sure that you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. But now back to the video. Obviously, if you use written directions, that's going to get a little bit more tricky because you will then have to interpret each of the wrong side rows and rewrite it for yourself as a right side row. So that is a bit more tricky. So I would suggest going through with the chart directions because it's going to be a lot easier. So that's the first thing you want to think of, is your stitch pattern and how it's written and how you convert it. Same thing with any other written stitch patterns, any wrong side rows, you're going to have to convert to right side rows. You can sketch them out in graph paper in a chart, and you can also just read them from right to left. Might make it a little bit more straightforward. But that's the number one thing you need to do, is convert all of those wrong side rows to right side rows. Next thing you might want to take a look at is, like, you're assuming you're knitting in the same direction. So if it's bottom up, but you're going to stick with the bottom up, most of the other directions will stay fairly similar. Kind of things that you might want to take a look at is, if it's knit flat, you'll very often have extra seam stitches in each side. So you may, if that's the case, you might want to take those out. You might also want to just kind of think about what's the side going to look like, where is it going to join. If it's in the round versus, it might be a cardigan, in which case you're just doing, you know, the left front, the back, and right front, back, and left front, and just make sure that you put all of those directions together and rewrite them for yourself. If it's just in the round and the cardigan, then you probably want to take these out, maybe put stitch markers in to indicate where the seams were, So it'll make it a little easier when you reach the point up here. So like those are the two big ones. Is think about whether there's extra seam stitches, take a look at how the chart can be converted, and after that, you know, it's just a matter of taking a look at what other potential issues you might run into along the way. I can't cover all of them obviously here, because whatever pattern you pick, it's going to be much more specific. So these are more general rules to kind of give you an idea of stuff to look out for and an overarching feel for how you'd go about doing it. But it is totally possible, and it would be kind of fun if you like a little bit of a challenge. It could be a fun challenge to take a flat pattern and convert it for yourself into the round. As always, I'd love to hear what you're doing with it. So, you know, share a link down below, post up photographs to us if you've been making any changes, or you're putting some of the topics that we're talking about into action yourself in your own work. And I hope you're enjoying the series.